And so an interesting thing to notice is these council meetings. In the past, Rhaenyra was her father's cupbearer and was really just there, like, floating about, refilling his cup, getting him drinks and snacks and whatnot, but not expected to participate in the conversation. She didn't have a seat at the table. But we see here now that Rhaenyra has a seat at the table, and not only does she have a seat at the table, but so does Alicent. The council is meeting, discussing the situation in the Stepstones and some other things taking place in the realm, and the two of them are seated at the table, welcome to offer their views and opinions. And in the midst of this, Rhaenyra makes an attempt to extend an olive branch to Alicent in expressing that, there's been some tensions between the two of them, between their factions of the family, and that in the grand scheme of things, it's more important for them to put aside those petty grievances and operate as one family. And with that, she makes some overtures, extends some courtesies to try to smooth things over. Once again, this thing of strengthening or forming alliances and burying the hatchet, kind of putting aside past grievances through marriage. As Rhaenyra proposes having her son marry Alicent's daughter. And then also, to further smooth things over, that the next time a set of dragon eggs should become available, that Aemon will be given first pick at them, that he'll get his pick of the dragon eggs, right? To even things out, to smooth things over. Now, unfortunately, this ends with her having, I don't really think it should be an embarrassing thing, but I could see why it might be. Viserys is happy to hear this from Rhaenyra, her extending this olive branch of sorts. But you can tell from looking at Alicent that she's not with any of this. She's not really looking to bury the hatchet. She is looking to continue prolonging things and isn't looking for a way for them to kind of resolve their issues or reach a happy medium. She's choosing violence, basically. And so it's again, this thing of Alicent claiming that, she, in the long run, she wants to avoid war and problems within the realm, but at every step of the way, and where and whenever possible, that she continues to poke the bear. Alicent basically rejects Rhaenyra's offer, right? She doesn't in the moment. She states kind of indirectly, well, I'll think about it, but she's not going to think about it. And immediately upon leaving the room with Viserys, as they're walking, she, begins to belittle the offer. Viserys sees it as a generous offer, but Alicent sees it as desperation on Rhaenyra's part. That this is her knowing that she's messed up and she's trying to make a last-ditch effort to try to clean things up. Upon retiring to their room, they are joined by the Hand of the King, Larys Strong. And he tells Viserys that basically, given recent events, as the guy, Sir Strong, who got into the fight with Sir Christian Cole, is actually his son. And that he's basically embarrassed their family, and as a result of that the best course of action is for him to resign as Hand of the King. Now, Viserys, it's unclear if he is truly clueless or just chooses not to see what's going on around him, but he tries to get Strong to spell it out. Well, what exactly is the problem? Why exactly are you resigning? And the thing is, with conversations like this, it's one thing when it's you and another person, you might be more willing to unburden yourself. But with Alicent in the room, there's no easy way to pretty much ask her to leave. And having her there and knowing all of the things going on at court, you would understandably be unwilling to voice your true feelings in front of this woman, right? Because you know how court is, like things might be used against you. What's said in front of her might then be used against others, might then be repeated elsewhere, bringing shame to the Strong family, further shame to the Strong family, causing problems for him and his son. And with him being unable to state what exactly it is that his son has done beyond what took place in the practice yard, Viserys refuses to accept his resignation. But he does grant him leave to accompany his son, Sir Strong, back to Harrenhal, their ancestral home, as he is the firstborn son and would stand to inherit from his father. And given what's taken place here, he feels it's best for him to leave court, to go back home and prepare himself to take over there. Now, something that I didn't quite pick up on before is that this guy that you see walking around with the cane, I knew he was from one of the solid families, one of like the high-ranking families, but didn't quite pick up on it until this episode that he is actually son to the King's Hand, that he is not Lionel Strong, the King's Hand's son, and also brother to Harwin Strong, right? And you see here, man, like, people are treacherous, at least within this show, because him and Alicent have had this conspiratorial circle thing going on since at least the last episode, if not maybe the episode before. The two of them are still meeting up and colluding together. So it's her and him, it's her and Sir Christian Cole as well, where pretty much she's taken over where her father left off with all of this intrigue and wheeling and dealing behind the scenes. Now, the thing that I found surprising was in his conversation with Alicent, Alicent expresses that basically Viserys is choosing to ignore what's going on, and Larys explains that, well, it's understandable because if he acknowledges what's taking place with Rhaenyra, he'll have to take some kind of action. And as a father, who would want to, have to banish your daughter from the realm or take some other serious action against her? He instead takes it upon himself to execute another course of action, which is that he goes down into the like these holding cells where criminals are, and selects, it looks like maybe 3 of them. Their like tongues are cut out, and we see one of the guys, his tongue's cut out. I assume that it's what they do to the rest of them so that they can't then tell afterwards what exactly happened. And while Viserys did not accept Strong's resignation as hand, he did grant him leave to accompany his son back to Harrenhal and, get him settled in there and whatnot before ultimately returning. But Larys, and keeping in mind that this is this guy's father and brother, that he sets in motion this plot for these 3 criminals to basically kill his brother and father. Right, we see them watching from the side of the road as the Strongs are making their progression back home. And in the middle of the night, while Lionel is sleeping and, Harwin is outside, that there's a fire. And it's a terrible fire, which we know it has been set by these 3 guys. And basically, they've been hired by Larys to set this fire, and in exchange for basically killing his father and brother, that he's going to not necessarily pardon them, but they'll forgive their sentences, they'll be released in exchange. And so with this, it removes Lionel as King's Hand by killing him. What was anticipated or what they welcomed was him like leaving of his own free will. But with Viserys refusing to accept his resignation, the next best thing, at least according to Larys, is to just get him out of there however you can. And this means killing him and getting his brother out of the way as well. Which then clears a path for Alicent's father, Hightower, to possibly come back as King's Hand. Now, the thing with this is, again, it's like this thing of succession, right? It's not enough for Larys to kill his father, but he has to also kill his brother, as is expressed by Lionel, that Harwin Strong is his heir. So if Larys kills his father, it's not like their lands and properties and whatnot. It doesn't sound like it would be split between them. Rather, Harwin would inherit the bulk of his father's estate. And at the same time that this is going on, well, before this takes place, Harwin, who has already been dismissed from the city watch, is preparing to leave, because now, in addition to that, it's not just enough for him to be cast out from the city watch, but he also has to like now leave the city, right? Like his dad is sending him home. And so before this takes place, he takes the time out to go and visit Rhaenyra and Rhaenyra's sons. And if there was any doubt of it, this farewell would certainly lead one to believe that he is the father of these children, or at least views himself as being their father, because the farewell that he gives them is what you would think, what you would expect from a father bidding his children goodbye, when he knows he's going to be gone for quite some time. Like he kisses the kids on the forehead. He, tells them that he's going to be gone for a long time, but he hopes to come back and see them. And it's just like this very sad farewell. And it's like throughout this, you look at Rhaenyra, who looks like, her husband's going off to war. And so it's like the exchange that they have, when you look at the exchange that her and her children have with this man versus the interactions that other members of the royal family have with, be it their guards or other servants within the royal household, there's a level of intimacy there that you don't see in other relationships. And so it would seem to lend credence to the real possibility that this guy is the father of these children. Because we know that Rhaenyra is not sleeping with Laenor. Like, he's gay, right? They have an understanding. And it's like, while they're both playing their part, there is some discomfort there, but to a degree, they're loyal to each other. Like, they might have their fussing and fighting amongst themselves, amongst Rhaenyra and Laenor, but out in the wild and amongst other people, they're going to present a united front. And as part of this, given how things are progressing, and that the rumors are really reaching a fever pitch, and Alicent is really pushing the needle here, Rhaenyra, especially with her rejecting this offer, Rhaenyra comes to the conclusion that the best course of action is for them to just leave court and to go to Dragonstone, to put some distance between themselves and Alicent, where, number one, you're not going to be constantly under surveillance by her with who knows whoever watching your every move. They can go there and they can have a little bit of peace and a little bit of distance. The danger with that is, by being absent, it opens up the possibility for Alicent, due to her then proximity and, unlimited direct contact with Viserys, to potentially poison him against Rhaenyra. For Alicent to kind of maneuver and manipulate the situation for Viserys to look at Rhaenyra differently. But with few other options and with various enemies basically sharpening their knives, it seems to be like the best course of action for the time being. So just a lot of movement. And again, the thing about this season is it's really a setup for what's to come, where we see the beginning of these grievances and how they started out as these small petty things that compounded over time, and then continued on into the next generation, where the adults kind of begin this thing of pitting the kids against each other, and it's like their issues, problems, and drama as adults filters down to the kids and will then continue on for the next several generations, where at this point in time the kids still get along well. They're kids, and they might fuss and fight amongst themselves and whatnot, but there's no ill intent behind it. They're just kids being kids. But then it's like the drama between the adults is already starting to spill over into their relationships, with the adults pulling them this way and that. And it's like, in addition to that, when you branch out further, you can see the various alliances and divisions becoming more well-defined. And as part of this is like Alicent, where, never mind her messiness, she seems a little bit out of her depth in this realm, right? Like starting drama, but not really prepared to deal with the full repercussions and ramifications. Because while she expresses, her and Larys discuss the return of her father, she doesn't think so far or so deeply or so desperately as Larys as to even think of the actions that he takes, right? And he's pretty unapologetic about it. So it's like, you look at it where this guy is willing to go to some depths, where he is willing to kill his own father and brother to get Hightower back in place, but with the caveat that he expects that should the time come, if and when the time comes in the future, that Hightower will return the favor, that, when he needs something in the future, that Hightower will come through in the clutch for him. And so it's like, it's this thing, if you think of like The Godfather, with making someone an offer that they can't refuse, where it's like, I'm going to do this thing for you today. And it's a terrible thing. It's something where people are going to look at you very differently if they find out that this thing occurred. But I'm going to do this thing for you today with the expectation that if I need something from you tomorrow, you're going to do it for me. So it's like you've pretty much like used Alicent, like given her what she wanted, getting her dad potentially back into place, so clearing the path for him to get back into place, but it's at a very expensive price, at a very costly price, where, she probably wasn't even thinking to that level. And it just shows you, like, she might be a little bit out of her depth here, where, she's playing checkers, but this guy and the other people at court, they're playing chess. So it's going to be, cool to see these little pieces come together and how they continue to build on each other, and the effects and ramifications that it'll have in the future episodes. So stick around.
Thanks for tuning in. To ensure you don't miss any episodes, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, go ahead and click the thumbs up button if you like what you saw, and go ahead and share it on social media.